for Cause-Driven Communication. And I'm also part of the steering committee of the Commission of Education and Communication of the IUCN. And I'm super excited for today's dialogue because I, as many of you, love stories. And I think stories are powerful and they allow us to explain very complex things in easier way. They allow us to connect in an emotional way with people. They are easy to share. They are easy to listen. So I'm super excited for today's panel because it's an opportunity to go deeper into learning how to use storytelling in a more effective way and how to use it to advance our conservation work. And before I introduce to the panel, I want to do a very quick break the ice activity. So I'm gonna ask you, hold on one second. Let me put it ready. I'm gonna share my screen. And I am going to ask you to, you're seeing my screen, right?
Yes.
I am going to ask you to scan this QR with your phone. It's easy to do. If you cannot do it or if you don't have your phone, you can also use the link that will appear in the chat. If Liliana can share that link, that will be good. If not, you just have to scan this code using your phone. I'm going to do it right now too. And I can see that you are joining. 39 people have just joined. Perfect. Okay, so please let me know if you, for any reason, cannot join. You can also write your answer in the chat. Don't worry. Where is your favorite? Oh, I went straight to the last one. So are you part of any IUCN commission? So where are you joining from? You can choose more than one question from that. And if you're not part of these commissions and you're part of others, of other movement, write it in the chat and we can also see your answer. So we have people from Nature for All movement. We have the Species Commission, nice. Okay, CEC member, yes?
It looks like only about 100 people can join the link.
Okay, you're right. Well, you can also, if you couldn't, sorry about that, you can write your answer in the chat as well if for any reason you couldn't join. Now let's see, where is your favorite place to connect with nature? I can see some of you prefer the forest, other the oceans. For me, I have to say I'm a water person, but I'm also a mountain person, so it's hard to decide. And finally, the last question is, how do you like to share your stories? If you're more of a photography, or if you like using videos, or if you like maybe art, drawing or painting, or if you're more of a narrative person and you like to go in front of a public and speak. I think photography is the most favorite one here in the room. Well, thank you everyone for sharing your answers. This was just an activity to get to break the ice. And now let's get started with our panel. I am, as I told you, very excited to be here today with 3 storytelling experts who will share their expertise. And I will say that together we will go deeper into why stories work and how to use them to advance our work. So without further ado, let me introduce to our panel. We have Aurora Piaggesi. She's an Italian storyteller, an amazing storyteller. We have Diana Garlytska. She's the IUCN West Europe Regional Vice Chair, and she's an expert also in the science behind storytelling. And we have Manfred Meiners. He's a biologist and a conservation photographer who has used storytelling in his conservation work. We will start by hearing from Aurora. And let me tell you a little bit more about Aurora Piaggesi. And I'm sorry, I will allow myself to read her bio. As I told you, she is a storyteller with a background in cinema, media, and audiovisual studies. Since she started her storytelling journey in 2015, she's been working both performance and applied storytelling with a strong focus on healthcare and education. After her cross-media documentary, Living with Chronic Wounds, that show how important it is to improve communication within the health system, she researched on narrative medicines and the many initiatives on storytelling and health, and work together with other scientific equipped at the IRCCS Fundazione Stella Maris, probably I pronounced that wrong, sorry about that, on 2 studies to demonstrate how a specific training in storytelling would benefit both professionals and patients. In 2022, the result of the first of these two, as a result of these 2 studies, they were published. She has designed training courses for healthcare professionals and patients since 2019 and collaborate with Integra and IRCCS and the European Wound Management Association. She lives and works in Rome, creating audiovisual promotional content for the Italian national television, RAI, writing and directing. So welcome, Aurora. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here. I apologize for my English not being my first language, so maybe here and there I will make some mistakes, and also I might mispronounce something, so if you have any questions at the end, I will be happy to answer. And also I might have some renovations going just outside my window, but I will do my best not to be bothered by these sounds. So, first of all, I want to tell you a very small story about why stories are so important, telling you that once upon a time, truth and story were actually neighbors. They lived side by side, door by door, and every morning they would open their doors, going through the path into the streets to wait for the bus to come. While Story opened the door and went outside, she looked like the most beautiful of spring mornings. She was always well dressed. She was floating on top of the path, and everyone that saw her was saying, "Good morning, Story, hello, Story." And she was always cheerful, saying, "Good morning, good morning." And she went to the bus stop and everything was perfect. But when truth opened the door, inside she felt like the most gloomy of all fall mornings, those mornings where you would like to stay inside covered because it's wet and damp and you feel shaking. And she went outside, she tried to say good morning, but people didn't even want to look at her. They just looked the other way or tried to go away, and she felt so lonely. She went to the bus stop all alone and waited because, you know, Truth did not have any friends. Her only friend was Story. And so she went one day to Story's house, she knocked, and when Story opened the door, there she was, Truth, on the verge of tears. "What's the problem, Truth?" she asked. And Truth started crying and crying, and she cried on the doormat, she cried in the corridor, she cried on the sofa. "What's wrong?" Story asked. "I don't have any friend but you, and no one wants to say good morning to me, no one wants even to look at me." You know, you need to know that Story was a really good friend, and real good friends will tell the truth to Truth. And so she said, "Truth, people don't want to look at you or say good morning to you when you are in the street because you are completely naked. Look at you, you are like your mother made you." And all of a sudden, Truth realized she was naked. She started covering herself. She grabbed a pillow. What do I do? I don't have any clothes. Remember, Truth was a really good friend to Truth. So she took Truth up into the attic where she kept a very big wooden chest. She opened the chest, and inside there were the most beautiful clothes that Truth has ever seen. She saw a dress covered in gold, a dress with a feisty red silk, and a dress that looked like a river going through the mountains. But again, Story kept digging and digging and digging until, look at this, try this on. And Truth tried to wear this dress that fitted like a glove. The dress was all the colors of the world, and it was weaved with all the threads of the world. There were drawn people and animals and mountains and lakes and rivers and deserts and woods. Everything it's in the world was on that dress. And for the first time in her life, she felt beautiful. Go, said Story, who was a real good friend. Go outside, show yourself. And so she went. She opened the door, she put a foot outside, and she saw that there were people in the street, so she wanted to bend over again, but then she heard them. Good morning, Truth, good morning. And so she stood straight, she smiled, and she went into the world, because she learned that when the naked Truth goes out dressed by Story, people are more prone to accept her. And you know, two of the characters that were weaved into this dress were a fisherman and a mermaid. And now I have a story about these two characters. A seaman sings on yonder reef, a spellbound girl draws near, a lilt that lures beyond belief, mortals enchanted here. We are on the coast of the Isle of Man, between Ireland and the United Kingdom. And there, right by the sea, there's a cottage made of thatch. And in that cottage lives a fisherman. And the fisherman loves to live there, but most importantly, he loves to be in the garden that surrounds the cottage. He built the cottage by himself, and in the garden, he planted the most beautiful apple trees and bushes of roses and all kinds of plants. He loved going outside and breathing in the sea breeze and working in the garden. You know, he would be loving it so much that he would be singing as he worked. He would sing in the springtime while planting seeds. And he would sing in summertime while hoeing the ground. And he was singing in the autumn while picking up the apples from the trees. He would not sing in the winter because he would be waiting for spring to come back, to go outside and work in his garden. But remember, first of all, he was a fisherman. So every morning he would have to drag the boat into the sea, throw the net into the water and take it out full of as much fish as he could. Every morning he would take out the fish and go to the market to sell the fish. And with the money that he would achieve, he would buy food, but most importantly, he would buy stock for the garden and tools and seeds and books, because that was his passion. But one morning, right the morning when autumn was coming, so the air was becoming more crisp and the leaves on the branches were becoming brown and red and yellow, that day, he took out the net from the sea and he saw that there was no fish at all. Not just one fish. That's strange, he thought. I'll try again tomorrow. But he threw the net, took it out, and the net was empty. The third day, threw the net, took it out, empty. Threw the net, took it out, empty. Every day it was empty, and 1 week passed. And after 1 week, without just one fish, he started getting really worried. Winter was coming. How was he supposed to live without any fish, without any money, without being able to buy food? He started to become so worried that he stopped singing. And one night, he was so worried that he couldn't even sleep. So he went outside, he leaned on top of the stone wall that he built himself and started weeping, weeping like a child. "Fisherman, is that you?" said a female voice. A female voice that came right from the sea, that faced the stone wall. "Who's there?" he asked. And there he saw that in the water there was a woman with very long hair and a pale skin looking at him. You must know that in the water, in the sea, by the Isle of Man, lives a very special kind of people, the Banvari, the mermaids. And there she was. "Why have you stopped singing, fisherman? I loved listening to your song so much." And he needed to tell her. He told her everything. I don't understand. What's wrong with the fish?" he asked. And the mermaid replied, "Have you considered that maybe this could be your fault?" "My fault? How?" he said. "Well, you were fishing so much, but what about your garden? How do you keep such lovely and fruitful garden?" "Well, I love it, I take care of it, I give it the fertilizer, I learn about how to respect the cycles of the trees and the ground." "And have you thought that maybe the same level of care and respect might be deserved also outside of your own property?" "Well," he said, "have you considered the possibility that fishing so much might have caused the fish not to be able to reproduce anymore? Maybe you have fished all the fish in the sea." "Is that so?" he said. No, it's not so, but we needed to put the fish away. We give them another route so that you wouldn't fish them anymore. But like this, I'm going to die. I need the fish to survive, to get some money, to buy food. Without the money, I will starve to death this winter." So, the mermaid really loved to listen to the song by the fisherman, but she also didn't want him to die. "So I will show you the new route for the fish, but you need to promise me that you will respect them and that you will fish only what you need, not so much to buy what you want." "I promise," said the fisherman. And so the day after, they went into the sea, he threw the net, he took it out, and yes, there wasn't as much fish as there was when he was fishing before to buy everything that he wanted, but it was enough for him. And so he was so thankful that he wanted to say to the mermaid, "What can I give you? I want to give you something to thank you. What do you want? Some roses from my garden?" But it's been a long time since the first day that the mermaid had first looked the apple trees in the garden of the fisherman. She loved when during springtime the sea breeze will bring the flowers to her in the water, and she will pick them and she will adorn her hair with the flowers. And during fall, she will look at how shiny and how red the apples looked. And so she asked, "I would like to taste one of your apples, if you don't mind." "Of course," he said. He went and grabbed an apple, threw the apple at the mermaid. The mermaid grabbed it, took a bite. It was so crispy, so juicy, so delicious, she said. And so the fisherman went out and filled a whole basket with apples. "Here, take it," he said. "Didn't I just teach you anything? I don't need all these apples. I would just need an apple here and there, but please don't waste your resources. Promise me." Yes, the fisherman had learned, and so in the days that followed, he planted one of his trees right by the stone wall, so that the branches of the tree would lean on top of the water, and during fall, the mermaid could just raise an arm and pick an apple and take it underneath the water. And you know, many years have passed. The fisherman had taught the lesson to his children, and their children had taught the lesson to their children, and so on. But too many years have passed, and I'm afraid that we have forgotten the lesson that the mermaid has given us. But you know, the apple tree is still there with its branches and the apples right on top of the surface of the water. And so during fall, during nighttime, you might see the water started trembling and a very pale arm coming out from the water, picking the apple and taking it underneath the surface of the sea.
Bravo, Aurora, bravo. I think we can.
Thank you very much.
Qué lindo.
Everyone is with their mics off, but they're saying bravo, love it, wonderful. Truly, you have an amazing gift to tell stories. And I was seeing just your face and I couldn't stop looking at you and listening to your story. Thank you very, very much for sharing these two stories.
Thank you for giving me this chance to share this story, which I love so much. I will not tell more because we have time for our Q&A, but thank you for all these wonderful comments.
Well, we've just heard an amazing story, two amazing stories from an amazing storyteller. And now I want to welcome Diana. As I told you, she's the expert behind why storytelling works. Why is that we were so focused on Aurora when she was telling her story. And I will tell you a little bit more about Diana. Diana is a young expert who over 9 years of her career in academic has taught in more than a dozen of countries across Europe and Asia. In 2013, from business analytics in HQ of a multinational corporation in Germany, Diana transitioned to teaching and research work in Lithuania. She has used every opportunity to enhance her knowledge in the field of environmental economics and develop her skills in teaching, project mandate, proposal writing, research, creative writing, and storytelling. Diana has written several workbooks for BA level students and created her author course on sustainable business development. Diana is the IUCN CEC West European Regional Vice Chair since 2022 and has also been on the steering committee of Collision Wild. Her greatest passions are youth engagement in nature conservation, storytelling, and academic work. So welcome, Diana. Thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ana. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Pleasure being here with you. And I guess as a small disclaimer, while my background is not in neuroscience, as a person who got to organize various kinds of different formats of storytelling events throughout past years in my work, I got to learn the nitty-gritty details of what storytelling is and what makes it so powerful. So indeed, my part here is to speak about the things that make storytelling as performance art and apply to such an impactful one, right? And before I move on with the materials that I prepared for you today, I would like us to do a little experiment. For this, I would like to kindly ask you to close your eyes for a very short while and imagine letter A. Let's close our eyes and imagine letter A. Thank you. I guess we had just enough time to imagine. And I'm very curious to learn what is it that you got to imagine. I hope my colleague Anna would help me here to choose whoever wants to share. Please raise your hand and Anna will pick some, maybe 3 people. And everyone else is welcome to share it in the chat as well. So any volunteers?
Yes, we have one, Swayam Framda. Sorry, I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, but you can unmute yourself and share what did you see?
Thank you. Good evening. And you can call me Swayam, and I am from New Delhi, India. And thank you for arranging this session. It's very, very exciting and very interesting. So when I imagined A with my eyes closed, first I imagined a capital letter A, and then I put on a little bit of, because I had time, so I could put in little flowers, little leaves to it. And then I changed the color from black to blue because I like to work on the oceans. And then I moved to the smaller letter of A, and then I started thinking of the small letter A and what all I could do with it. So I started drawing fishes. So I started imagining a lot of A's with tails and swimming, and I thought it was like fish, because just before this, we had heard a story about the oceans and the fish. So I could imagine, literally take myself there and connect with the previous story. So it was like A all becoming, the small A all becoming fish and swimming around in an ocean. So that's what I imagined. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else wants to raise her or his hand and share what letter does he or she saw? I'm here, I'm in the chat, we have a capital MTA, that it became bright. They imagine apple, aura, agimarangsi, I don't know, I'm not pronouncing that correctly. A capital letter like in a children's book. Anyone else wants to unmute themselves and share what kind of A did you see? Don't be shy. We are a big group.
I see a couple of raised hands.
Okay, hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Vishal, and I imagined an A in black, and I was expecting Anna to tell further, what we had to imagine, but she stopped. So I converted a A into a V. I reversed it because I was thinking what to do with that A, and that V kind of dissolved. And I thought that maybe when, since the topic is on stories, so I thought maybe how we transform from a page to next page, and how we connect our lines and how we merge them together, something like that, I thought. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Nirmal.
Yeah, it appears that we from India responding well. Yeah, when I imagined A, it was capital A, and when she was not talking, then the picture of Eiffel Tower came to my mind, and I started pondering over it. That's it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. Wonderful. Yeah, feel free to continue sharing in the chat. We all see it, and it would be interesting to also reflect on it further. And I guess I'd like to ask everyone to mute themselves, and we would continue with the presentation. Maybe Liliana can help me here. We will come back to the findings of our little experiment later on within my presentation. So what makes stories so powerful? Let's move on to the next one. We started this webinar with the performance of Aurora being here with us live, right? In an online format, but still an actual performance of storytelling. Liliana, we could go to the next one. Thank you. This storytelling performance was an actual manifestation of what storytelling is as performance art, right? As in a separate form of art. We all know of theater, but storytelling as such has a very interesting situation, so to say, in different countries. Some have a very distinctive culture of storytelling, and others may not have storytelling as a very crystallized form of art and would rather have something like oral literature, as in radio programs and podcasts, or stand-up sort of performances with anecdotes being told. We can also speak about storytelling as digital storytelling, in a sense of us in 2023 using digital means, as in virtual reality or mixed reality, to make digitally enhanced storytelling performances. There could be one or multiple storytellers performing the story. An audience can be also involved in performing a story together with the teller. We can move on to the next one. But when we talk about storytelling, not as a form of art, but as an applied storytelling in the meaning of being a tool, we talk about using the advances of the power of storytelling in very specific contexts. Storytelling is a very known communications tool, but it's also used in sales, marketing, journalism, movie industry uses storytelling a lot. We talk about fundraising with the help of storytelling, and there are numerous in-house storytellers that do apply storytelling when being in-house storytellers in organizations, shaping their organizational culture, transmitting those myths and legends, shaping the values and norms within the organization. But also in today's world, we can speak about data storytelling. When there is so much information, in fact, so many numbers that we don't feel anything for, that we need someone to interpret them to us, for the numbers to be understood, and for us to have any stake in that at all, right? And in fact, it's very much about stake and feelings when we get to talk about storytelling. So let's move on to the next one. There is such thing as Miller's law that says that maximum number of pieces of information a human can handle concurrently is 7. So at the same time, there are only 7 pieces of information we can hold in our hand, right? And I invite you to think of how many emails you receive per day. Is it 10? Is it 20? Is it 30, 50, 70, more? When preparing for this webinar, I came across some information saying that every 60 seconds, every minute, 700,000 Google searches are being performed. 5.3 trillion ads are shown online each year. The average consumer processes 100,500 digital words daily. We all suffer information overload here and then, right? If we could go to the next one. So when talking about data and information and processing so many facts and figures, think of how our brain should function, right? Because like every other organ that we have in our body, it is there to help us function effectively, right? And so it focuses on things that matter. And what matters? things that we give meaning to, that we have feelings to, things that make us indifferent, right? And information overload is linked to greater stress and poor health. So our brain is wired that way that it helps us to prevent that stress and to keep us healthy, meaning it doesn't, maintain and process actively all the information that comes across us. So what it focuses on and what it makes sense of, what it emphasizes on, are the things that are connected with what triggers specific emotions. And we could go on to the next one. You and I, we're all mammals. And of course, humans are no different from the animal world. We're part of it. So if you think of it, there is a very natural chain of reactions that happens in our body, the hormones that are being released with the blood throughout our body that help us to connect and bond. So when listening to stories, this is exactly what happens. Studies have shown that our brain releases oxytocin and cortisol when listening to stories. These two and a few more hormones are responsible for emotions such as empathy and causing bond between mom and child, right? If you and I belong to certain organizations and we talk about storytelling as applied tool for communications on nature conservation, you and me storytelling means loyalty of stakeholders, them bonding to the activities we perform in our organizations, them having stake in what we do through the stories that we convey, right? We can go on to the next one. Functional MRI neuroimagery shows that when evaluating brands, consumers in the first place use emotions rather than ratio. And there are ways in which storytelling is so powerful, right? Stories command human attention. When we listen or read or watch a story, our whole brain is activated because different parts of the brain are responsible for listening, speaking, watching, and processing that information. So while we watch the performance of a storyteller, we also listen and read, right? Besides activating the whole brain, why storytelling is so powerful is that it connects the listener to storyteller emotionally. When we listened to what Aurora was telling, right, how she was performing those stories, we had feelings and emotions, and some of us had it very vividly expressed, right? I know I was smiling when she was talking about things cheerful, and I was also getting a little bit of that blue vibe when she was telling about truths that, didn't have any friends and so on. And you definitely didn't have any emotions or not much of emotions connected to the task that I gave on the letter A, right? There was no way you could connect to what I was saying. Letter A, no context, nothing on, font size, texture, color. That was all your imagination from your experience and whatever, thoughts you had floating. But it was not about you and me bonding or you following onto where I was mentally in my thoughts or the idea I had behind that task. Stories synchronize the listener's brain with the teller's brain, right? We felt that. We can now, rationally analyze what happened to us when we were listening to Aurora's story. what she thought about, that she put into words and told us, we imagined. So we were exactly on the same page that she was. And when she would tell us the color or the texture or the context, what was in her brain was the picture that we were getting, right? Stories can change brain's chemistry. They activate brain zones responsible for emotions, and through that, different chemicals are being released in our body. They cause emotions and we act differently, right? Stories also affect behaviors because of that. We're empathetic as human beings, and that is how stories engage us. I think very many of us were really there with the fisherman in his despair and trying to understand what to do now with the fish lacking in the sea. We can move on to the next one. When we talk about stories for impact and how we want to achieve a particular goal in using storytelling for communication, there are, of course, many examples of successful storytelling for nature conservation. Many of you, I trust, would know IUCN search engine, right? They plant trees through our searches that we do on the platform, and it's very engaging emotionally to see the photographs of the communities where the trees were planted, and you have this curiosity and empathy to what the activities are and how they implement those projects. I'm sure many of you have also heard of fashion revolution movement that crystallized and got established as a result of unfortunate Rana Plaza accident. And it's so connected with the tragedy and the context within it, which it happened, that they advocate for transparency in the fashion industry. And we know that according to some research, fashion industry is second most polluting industry in the world, and transparency in the supply chain and issues that are out there within the industry are of crucial importance. Getting towards the net zero and really talking about justice, equal rights and employment, and health and safety standards at work for the garment workers. And so there is this campaign called Who Made My Clothes? If you look at the hashtags in the social media, you will come across very many interesting user-generated content, right? People who follow the movement and share same values and support the idea of the movement, participate in the campaign and share the photographs of their clothes, tagging the brands who produced it, and request those brands to tell who made the clothes, and then attracting attention to the role and the figure of the garment workers and the quality of their work conditions. We're talking also about a very known case of, say, Patagonia's article, "Don't buy this jacket," right? If you even pay attention to the very first line of that article, it almost sounds like Once Upon a Time, right? And there are so many more examples of successful, in my opinion, storytelling for nature conservation, for green causes, storytelling for impact, that it's a matter of us discovering or rediscovering, being better equipped with storytelling as applied communications tool. And I guess at this point, I would like to wrap it up with saying that everyone has a story to share. Mine is green, and I hope we all find a way to turn our stories greener. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diana. I think it's we all got deep into the story that Aurora told us, and now understanding that storytelling is a tool. It's a tool that we can use and we can apply, and there are reasons why they work, what happens in our brain and how we connect can help us say, okay, how can we use this tool to advance conservation? Which led me to our next panelist, because we now hear a story, we now understand why they work, and it will be good to hear from someone that is actually doing that. It's actually telling stories to advance conservation work. And let me then introduce to our third panelist, Manfred Meiners Ochoa. He's also from Mexico. Manfred is a biologist and conservation photographer that has documented and promoted conservation efforts. He believes in the power of images to connect people beyond words. Manfred studied biology and a master's degree in environment and has promoted nature conservation in collaboration with civil society, government, and international agencies. He has developed various outreach projects using photography as a tool, such as Jalisco Biodiverso Initiative. He's a member of the Commission on Education and Communication of the IUCN, and in 2019, he received the CEC Excellent Award. In 2013, he received the Ecological Merit Award, Premio al Mérito Ecológico, in the category of Environmental Communication by the Government of Mexico. His work as a photographer has been exhibited in more than 10 countries, in galleries and public spaces. He has been curator and editor of several projects and jury of many photographic contests. He has also produced and directed documentaries on environmental issues. He has published in National Geographic, among other magazines, and he believes in the power of images to connect people beyond words. So welcome, Manfred, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for the invitation. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm very happy to share this panel with Aurora and Diana, who just did a wonderful presentation about storytelling. And I would like to start to share a fragment of a song. And I would like to close your eyes as well and try to think about a word that comes to you. So let me see if it works. Okay, close your eyes and I will whistle for you. Okay, probably some of you know the word or relate something to this melody or this fragment that I tried to whistle. Sorry for that, I'm not a whistler, but maybe some of you related with a word or with something. Okay, I can see now. It's working. Many of you are writing it down. Okay, it's not a secret. It's tequila. So I was at a conference once, and I did this exercise, and I really thought only half of the people were going to say the word tequila, right? But it happens that 99% of the participants even replied, because I asked them to sing back if they could, and they replied with the word tequila. But tequila brings us to each of us in a different situation or memory, or we can relate. Some of you might relate to beach, I can see here, to tequila sunrise, to a drink, to a party, even a wild party, or a volcano or even a fish. And that is what I want to share with you, that tequila, for me, it's all of the above. It's a volcano, it's a town, it also means to me friends, party, a good time, and also a fish. And I would like to make a pause here, because tequila, it's a beverage, you know, it's a liquor, it's quite hard. It's famous for party, for shots, for margaritas, for tequila sunrise, as some of you were writing down. And it's actually a story. It's also a fish, a very small fish. And I would like to share that story because it's a story that is close to my heart, it's close to my hometown. So you can see in this picture, there is a mountain. There is also what seems to be a lake, which is a Ramsar site. It's an international wetland, declared an international wetland. And there is a river. And in that river that you can see that follows, this river starts in an archaeological site called Huachimontones, which is a circular pyramid or a complex of pyramids, quite famous in Mexico. And it's right in the heart of the tequila region where tequila is produced. In this Ramsar site, of course, there are some friends that come during the winter to have a shelter, to have a good weather. So we have migratory species such as the white pelican. We have also some residents such as the river otter. But I would like to talk today about this fish. And Aurora I really love the story about Aurora because she also was telling about the fish. And this story that I'm going to share you is about a particular fish. Well, in 1955, some researchers found a new species which was called tequila splintfit, or picote tequila in Spanish. And it was found in this river that I really love, that is right next to the archaeological site, which is the Rio Teuchitlan River. So this was found in 1955, about the same time that the Champs were recording the famous song Tequila. And unfortunately, this species in the 90s got extinct. The researchers were looking for it, they couldn't find it. There was a PhD thesis that only reported 50 individuals in a particular site near the spring of the river, where the river is born. There's a clear water, and the reason for the extinction, it seems, that is basically different factors involved together. Invasive species, water pollution through runoff of agriculture, maybe overfishing. But this particular fish that I'm talking about is not as a fish that Aurora was telling. This is a very tiny fish. It's only 7 centimeters. And we wanted to bring it out from extinction. So how come this could be possible? Okay. Fortunately, some of the researchers had a stock that was bred ex situ, so not in a lab, so they could reproduce this species. And this effort was a very interesting effort that we wanted to reintroduce the fish to the river, but we had to remove all the influences that were creating the extinction. So we had to work together with the community, with the local people. So there was a big effort to take some of the invasive species out from a particular side of the river, and then try to bring back these species. So it was actually a big effort that it was part of a case study from the IUCN, was published in 2018. And it was only recently that through the surveys, the fishes were growing, the population was growing. So in order to do that, it was very interesting because they marked each individual with a code so that you could catch it and see if it's the same individual or it was reproducing. So in the last surveys, we have only found new individuals. So it's reproducing. So that's a very nice and a wonderful news. Normally in the environmental crisis, there are very often bad news. So we're constantly hearing bad news, hearing about the climate crisis, about the pollution, about the extinction. So this was a different story. Fortunately, with the help of Omar Dominguez, he's a specialist in fish from the University of Michoacán. So they were able to reintroduce this species, and it thrived. It was reproducing, and it's going well. So that's a very nice story that we wanted to share. Of course, there are many people behind this effort, but Omar was the leader, the scientist that was shaping this project and involving, of course, his team, students, the community, in order to see again this tiny fish, colorful fish in its habitat. Now, this fish is endemic. It's only found in this river. So when it was about to be extinct, there was not another habitat that could go. It was the only place where it's found. So with this effort of reproducing it in the lab and taking it back to its habitat, this news, of course, it was also supported by the community, with the children. There are a group of young people and also their family that are the guardians of the river. And they are working to promote the conservation of the river otter, and all the habitat to have a healthy place. So this particular story was a good story, was the first documented reintroduction of an extinct species, and it went on. The news went in all over the world. It went in different language. We counted more than 50 different news in December and January from 2022. It even got in Korean and translated in Turkey, in Dutch, in Germany, in many, many languages. So it was really inspiring to see a local story to spread out, because we want to hear, as Diana was saying, also nice stories. We want to embrace and to have hope. With the environmental crisis, there are so many bad news every day, with the reports, with the things that are happening around us, so that we also need nice stories to have a good sleep, and to also to go on with our work in conservation. So this story is built upon real people that are working. This is Chelo, this is Consuelo. which is one of the community leaders that are also getting involved with all the community. So I wanted to share this story because it's something that it gives us hope. And I think that stories can really change the way we see our world, the way we go every day. And if we have nice stories, good news, we can really focus on changing the environmental crisis and get a lot of opportunities. Well, thank you for the time. And I'd like to close my intervention telling that every one of you have a story, and please share it to inspire others. We really need to move and change the story about our planet. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Manfred. And I don't know if it's possible if we can spotlight the three panelists. Maybe it's already done. Sorry, I'm in a gallery view. And now we are in the Q&A session. And while you start writing your questions, I want to rescue some of the comments that we receive in the chat. For example, Basanti said, oh, I think the song was too local. It has, it's actually, it says, this is, I want to read it exactly. It is so cultural and has local context. And that's also something that is good about stories. And I think it's powerful about stories. Stories allow us to identify our tribe, right? The persons who identify with our stories and the persons that doesn't connect to our stories. And when we're working in communication and we have to focus our resources very wisely, it's good to be able to identify who our tribe is. And the other two comments I want to rescue are one of Maria Luisa, that she said, I will tell the story to my daughter after hearing Aurora's story. And a second one saying, I will be whistling this song all day. And the thing is that stories, whether they are songs, they are photographs, they are narratives, they are easy to remember. And they get stuck in our head. And there's a feeling that we really want to share it. If we like a story, we want to share a story. So again, these comments I think were very valuable. And I just wanted to share with you. And now we are ready for the Q&A. Please, if you have any question, just you can, okay, I have Billy saying, in the old days, radio dramas used to be a very popular format of storytelling. Has this format fallen out of fashion, or it's still used much today? And I think Manny really liked the question because he copy and pasted too. So do you know anything about radio dramas or this as a tool for sharing stories and for advancing the work? And you are welcome to answer. Sean, you're also welcome to answer. Sean is our CEC chair, and I know you've done thousands and thousands of radio dramas, so maybe you are the one who should be answering this. So any of you or Sean, feel free to take the floor.
Well, perhaps I can start us off, because as you said, Ana, I've been very lucky to produce 3,000 or 4,000 episodes of radio drama and TV drama. And I think it teases out these beautiful points that Manfred, Aurora, and Diana have illustrated. One, it takes complex, naked truth and it puts it in a story format, which is powerful. Two, there's something about the coming back of a radio drama. It shows week one with a cliffhanger. It keeps you coming back week two. It keeps you bringing back week three. So it's not just a story. It's a story that keeps on giving. One of the elements I particularly like about radio drama is we don't think people listen to radio anymore. We imagine we don't. But if you actually look at the data, something like 90% of the world's population engages in radio every week. And in many countries, we're blurring the formats. For example, I happen to know that over 60% of Kenyans listen to their radio on their mobile phone. So is it an app? Is it a mobile? Is it a radio drama? These days, it doesn't matter anymore. But I think to close, and then maybe call out one friend in the group, good conversation is supposed to provoke content, discussion. And it's discussion that changes the dialogue and changes the heart. You saw from all three of our speakers, the stories created responses. There's something about radio drama, which is like you're in the room. It's like you're right there. And when someone calls in and interacts, it's like we're all in that conversation. It doesn't happen with TV. It doesn't happen in many contexts. So I'm very lucky right now to be working with Manfred, a CEC member who's here on the line from Germany. Goes under the name here of Mani Open. So hi, Mani. We're doing a radio drama right now in first environmental radio drama for all of Mongolia as part of a My Green Mongolia campaign. And it's a really fun way to reach out to pastoralists in rural environments. And 4 weeks ago, we spent a week with 30 Mongolians developing the story. And I wish you'd been there, Aurora, because I would have loved to have started them off with some naked truth and some well-dressed story, because it's really powerful, the work. But so yes, thank you for calling on me, Ana. And maybe we can dedicate a future session on radio drama and entertainment education and how you do it and why you do it and the steps, because like all of this work, it's a methodology, it's an approach. It's half science, it's half creativity, but it's really about the right group of people.
Thank you, Sean. We also have Valeria Mas asking, photography seems to be constantly replaced by reels because perhaps reels can tell a story more easy than photography. But is it so? What do you think? Maybe this is for you, Manfred.
Yes. Well, I think photography, and most people said when you ask, how do you like to share a story? I saw a lot of people saying that photography was one of the favorite ones. And I think photography has this ability to speak 1,000 words, as they say, but also it can capture something that we can visually relate. So a lot of people can relate to a photo. Of course, the photo has to tell the whole story. However, now with the cell phones and with the video, social media, many people prefer to see reels, to see short clips of video, because it has music, it has sounds, it has much more information. So I think both are very powerful. I think it's a matter of how to use it for the specific public, but it's a trend now that in social media and social networks, it's being used now, the reels. So I think both are really powerful, and I would recommend everyone here to have both and to try to use it to tell their story. Maybe a short interview, maybe a portrait. So of course it's a tool that we can use for storytelling, and we should really explore all the possibilities that both offer.
Thank you, Manfred. And I think this is a very good question. And Lee Coren asked, and then Renee Smith, I like that you are like resharing the questions that you really want to answer, or you want to get answers, sorry. And Lee asked, how do we start? What are the main tips for telling a story about our research and success stories so that it's not dry reporting?
Who's this question for?
I think it's an open question. Whoever wants to jump in and answer. How do we start? How do we?
Well, from my perspective, so the perspective not of a researcher, but of a person that sometimes get involved in, preparing this kind of stories and data to the public. There are several passages that you would like to follow, but I think that the main things that you should keep in mind is, first of all, who is your target in this kind of communication? So you would change, if you tell something to children is not the same as you would tell, for example, to an institution. Second, you would like to find a point of view. So a character, for example, if you want, for example, the story of this fish repopulation, you started with a character, with a place, with a conflict. So you would like to ask you some questions that usually start with W. So who, why, when, where, what, these kind of questions. And you decide from which perspective to tell the story. And finally, the last thing that you want to know is the how. So which kind of media format you choose. Because as we said already, according to what kind of format and medium you choose, it changes actually the content. And I personally think that the story and the target influence the media and the format that you choose. So you think about your goals and you decide, you ask yourself these questions, and then you prepare your story without leaving out, of course, the data. But if you have a character, if you have a dramatization, you will put emotions in there, you would put images in there. And as Diana told us, images and emotions are something that would create connection and will help the information stick. So I think this might answer.
I think it's a perfect answer, because Ana and Hali was asking the same, like, how do we bridge this gap between the scientific data and storytelling? And I think your answer touched on that. I don't know if any Diana or Manfred wants to also speak about that as well.
Thank you. If I could jump in. Indeed, when communicating in general, and Aurora picked the main point probably from the beginning, it's important to communicate know who you communicate to, the information that you have in that story, right? And probably the most important words in your story would be you and yours, as in that receiver of information. Sometimes in blogging, content creation in social media, not all the organizations are successful, and it doesn't mean that they don't do a great job. While they are doing tremendously important and successful job in terms of how effective they are in doing it, some fail to communicate about it right, because they speak from their perspective, not from the perspective of one who receives that information. Why should it matter to them? Why should someone spend their time and bother to learn about what you do and, the importance of that for the society, for the better good, for that person or that organization? The most important person is them, yeah? And it's about their perspective onto what you do. And of course, the more stakeholders you have, the more difficult it gets, because there can be conflict of interest between the stakeholders. They might want to be addressed through different channels, with different words if you want, maybe have a different story for a different stakeholder, because they need to be spoken to in a different manner. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to read this other question from Juana. Sorry, there are many comments. Some of the questions has been answered in the chat already. But Juana Mariño from Colombia is asking, how much has the insistence on the need for scientific knowledge articles affected the validity and importance of storytelling at the science policy society interface. I think that's important because we sometimes in conservation, we are very keen on data and making sure it's valid and it's true, and stories can change that. So again, open to the panel, whoever wants to jump in and answer.
I'd like to share a few thoughts on this. Can you hear me?
Yes, Vishal, go ahead.
Vishal, okay, yeah. I'm Vishal from Delhi. I recently visited a few tribal areas, areas with indigenous people. And I was visiting from Delhi and going to an area full of jungles and areas so remote that we had to trek 2 to 3 hours to reach those villages. And once I reached there, I thought that, we were going to speak about the importance of education and the applicability of good education and good thinking capacity in enhancing lives. But once I went there, I thought that these tribal villages were living much more happier than I was in my city. And that got me thinking, what is it that we should try to transfer in terms of knowledge? Is it my knowledge of science? Is it my wisdom? Is it my ability to make money or teach them management? And then I thought that we have to teach young children and youth how to think, but think in a manner that they can enhance their own cultures and eke out a living for themselves while sustainably making money at the same time, using their own culture but not copying anything. And I was just wondering, do we have a repository of stories across the world? Because a story of, let's say, America, how applicable would it be in Africa or in Japan, or an Indian story being applicable in Canada or Mongolia because of cultural consonance? But nevertheless, we could tweak it because lessons are same, values are same across the world. So stories could be tweaked. So this was a thought I just shared with everyone.
Thank you very much. And I think at the end of this panel, we will have Jose to share a little bit about this initiative of where we can all share our stories and where we can get to know more stories about the world. So we will certainly have some data and some invitation to do that. We're running out of time. This has been a really nice, and we have more questions. Probably we should be doing another panel of this, Sean. It's certainly a topic that has raised a lot of attention. But before, we have a time for one more question. Let me first ask you to do something, because this is our first dialogue. And I will ask every one of the panelists to have a closing message. But before we do that, we prepare a very brief questionnaire because this is our first dialogue. We want to hear from you. We want to know if it's useful, if it's not, what are the next topics. It will take you no more than 3 minutes. And I want to take, before we end, these 3 minutes to please enter to the link. It's in the chat. Jose, just share it, and I'm going to reshare it so you have it here. Okay, it's there. If you can go to the link, 3 minutes, take 3 minutes of your time to answer three specific questions. And we can then come back and have a closing word from each of our panelists. And an invitation from Jose. Yes, sure. gonna give one more minute.
Sorry, Anna, I think that my email is not the same as my Gmail address, and so it's not allowing me to fill in. I see that there might be an issue with that, so excuse if it's not done.
Oh, okay. Maybe Jose can help us figure it out. But if not, we can contact you later and just ask you if your feedback regarding this and next dialogues. Okay, so let's give some minutes for our panelists to give a closing, some closing words. And please, Jose, you jump in as well so that you can share with us where can we be sharing our stories, because I think that was a very good comment. And I think we all have stories to share, and they will be useful in other countries, in other regions. So please also, if you could join the panel, so you can also tell us about that. So I'll start with you, Manfred, some final words.
Thank you. So a lot of people were asking how to start to tell the story. I would say that just as Aurora was saying, you have to see who are you talking to, what message do you want to go through, what emotions want you to react, if you want to change a behavior or if you want to inform. So ask you those questions, and you will see, really, you find the house. You will see there's a lot of ways to tell the story. I'm pretty sure, as Diana was saying, that there are a lot of positive stories or even dramas in the stories or conflicts that you want to create. So you could put it in a way that you can use data, you can use emotions. And I think, because I saw that there were some questions regarding this, how to use the science or the data, and how to use things that the emotions and the story. So I think a mix of it could always help, because science can give you some of the truth, some of the reality, and the stories can help to put that together to bring your message and to try to reach your goals or objectives. So that's my final. And I'm sorry that the song didn't come out, but I think the plan B worked with the whistling. So.
Yeah, thank you, Manfred. It did. Diana, some final words. How do we get started, or your closing reflections?
Thank you. Sometimes when I talk to people from business who want to tell a story, but think that they don't have an exciting story, fun story, and a story has to be wow. And also, often they ask a question, can we make up facts? Can we maybe lie a little? And there are white lies, right? We're talking about reality that you want to shape into a story. And that allows some creativity, right? You may, of course, always add up details, introduce a character who maybe wasn't there in real life, or create a story about the activities that you do in your organization. Storytelling, to me, in the first place, is performance art, as in an art form. And it has to be creative in a sense that you should allow yourself some space for making it a vivid story, and going, fancy with the details. So creativity, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. I'm following the order the way I see in the screen. So Jose, it's your turn. Tell us a little bit about this invitation on sharing stories.
Thanks, everyone. This was a really wonderful event. So Nature for All is organizing a storytelling campaign right now. People are invited to share their love of nature stories. And this can be done in any format, whether it's video, photo, art form, written word, spoken word. So we have podcasts as well. I'm going to put a link to that in the chat right now. In addition, and this is all leading up into February, where for 2 weeks we'll be compiling all of this and inviting everyone to take part in the Nature for All Love Fest, which is going to be a celebration of all these wonderful love of nature stories. There'll be opportunities to do webinars, to do your own events locally, to take part in other activities. And so there'll be more information coming in the near future on that. So we hope everyone will participate. But please, in the meantime, do go on to the Nature for All website, share your stories, submit it. There's a form, easy, and we want to hear your stories, and they'll all be shared and compiled online. So that's my 2 minutes.
Thank you, Jose. Aurora, your turn.
Yes, so I wanted to say that for all of you that are maybe concerned about how can I tell a story, what shall I do, I wanted to tell you that before coming here to this webinar, I've been through quite a long time, a very hectic but also quite discouraging period of time, because given the climate situation, the political situation, the fact that I live in a city where it's really, really difficult to feel part of a community, we really feel every day here in Rome is like being truth, going out of the house and being really groggy. And I started really being discouraged and feeling powerless. And I noticed that many people are prone to be to share this kind of negativity, and especially when they feel alone. And we are trained to feel powerless. We are trained to feel that sharing our passion, our care for what we love is not a value, but a sort of aspect that puts you like in a vulnerable position. You know, we need to fake that we are very strong and very powerful. But in this kind of situation, with the people that I met today, visiting the Nature for All site and seeing all the stories, and every time that I see one of those videos where you see people saving animals from the rain or from the rivers, every time I cry, because I feel part of a movement of people that love and take care for their world that we share. So I think that there is a very powerful energy that we can apply alone, but most importantly together. So given that you all are here, yes, maybe starting telling stories, starting sharing what you've done might take a little of practice, but I think that what's in here, it's important. What you want to achieve is most important. And every nice action that you can do is worth doing it. So first of all, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Aurora. Finally, Sean, if you can say closing words to close this amazing panel. We've all learned so much, and at least talking for myself, I'm leaving more inspired than ever. So thank you very much. Sean, your closing words.
Thank you. So I get to close because I'm chair of the CEC, the Commission on Education and Communication, just because I haven't really formally introduced myself. And this is our first collaborative Nature for All CEC dialogue, and I don't think it could have gone any better or had the right speakers. I'd like to special shout out to Ana, who's always such an incredibly gracious and thoughtful host. So thank you, Ana. But Diana, Aurora, Manfred, this combination of bringing together the different views on storytelling. And for me, the fact that we started this whole series with a story of naked truth clothed by story will always stay with me and always touch me. And that's the power of a story. It breaks through the noise, it breaks through the complexity, and it takes a complicated idea, makes it meaningful, makes you talk about it. So I challenge each of you, please go out and tell a story tonight from what you heard today. Please invite 3 to 5 friends to join our growing community, to join CEC. Liliana has put a link in the chat. We'll do a follow-up email where we'll circulate the tape of this to everyone so you can go back and watch it. You can share it with your friends. Do tell a story for Yose's wonderful work on the Story Fest with the Nature for All team. We need a cascade of story, a tsunami of good stories that, as Aurora said, make us cry, make us feel, make us reflect. The only way to combat all of that negative energy in the world with so many bad stories is to balance with the stories of love and joy and passion and commitment and everyday people doing good work to make a difference. Thank you for taking the time to fill out the survey. We will follow up. This will be a monthly series. You may be sitting there now, Manfred, the other Manfred, Lily, Juana, you'll be on the other side of the screen talking about your experiences in an upcoming session. If you think you have a story to tell, a resource to tell, something powerful to share, get in touch with us so we can do it. So I want everyone to put on your mics for a minute because we're noisy when we're together. And let's all just say thank you and goodbye all at the same time.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Well
Nice
done.
seeing
Well done
you.
all.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day or night. And thank you for joining.